They taught you to speak up, to show yourself, to be seen, but they never told you what visibility costs. And they never told you who benefits when you give it away. There is a quiet advantage moving through this world, and most people will never notice it. Not because it is rare, but because it does not announce itself. Machiavelli understood this truth long before the modern world made noise its religion. He knew that power does not live where everyone is looking. Most people believe power looks loud, confident, obvious. They think it shows up as dominance, strong words, bold opinions, and constant presence. But real power does not rush to be noticed. It waits. It watches. It studies the room before it ever steps forward. Look closely at how people move through life. The ones who talk the most reveal the most. The ones who explain themselves constantly give away their position. Every opinion they share becomes a handle others can grab. Every emotion they display becomes a map to their weakness. They think they are being real. In truth, they are being readable. And in a world driven by human nature, being readable is dangerous. Machiavelli observed something uncomfortable. People are not ruled by truth. They are ruled by perception. They judge quickly. They decide emotionally. They act based on what they think they see, not what is real. This is not evil. This is human. And once you understand this, you stop fighting it. The hidden advantage begins the moment you stop reacting and start observing. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is space, and space allows you to see patterns others miss. When you stop filling every moment with words, you begin to notice how others expose themselves. Their fears slip out in jokes. Their intentions leak through impatience. Their insecurities hide behind confidence. The quiet man in the room is often underestimated. People project onto him whatever they want. Weakness, strength, mystery, threat. And while they are busy guessing, he is learning. History rewards this kind of awareness. The rulers who survived were not always the strongest. They were the most controlled. They knew when to show force and when to disappear. They understood that being everywhere makes you predictable, but being selective makes you powerful. This is why restraint feels unnatural at first. You were trained to share, to speak, to prove yourself. But power does not need proof. Power needs timing. Think about it. When someone speaks less, their words land heavier. When someone does not rush to defend themselves, others grow uneasy. Silence creates gravity. People lean in. They wonder. They fill the gap with their own assumptions. And assumptions can be shaped. Machiavelli hinted at this truth when he warned that men judge more by the eye than by the hand. People believe what they see, not what they are told. So if you control what is seen, you influence what is believed. This is not about lying. It is about discipline. The world does not need full access to you. Your thoughts, your plans, your doubts, these are not meant for public display. Every time you overshare, you lower your position. Every time you react emotionally, you give others control over your state. The hidden advantage is emotional restraint. When you do not react, you cannot be provoked. When you do not explain, you cannot be trapped. When you do not rush, you cannot be forced. This is why the awakening feels uncomfortable. It asks you to let go of validation. It asks you to stop trying to be understood by everyone. It asks you to accept that some people will misjudge you and that this is not a weakness, but protection. Most people are exhausted because they are constantly performing, explaining who they are, defending their choices, announcing their intentions. They think visibility equals control. But visibility often hands control to others. Power moves differently. Power watches first. It speaks last. It acts once. This advantage does not make you cold. It makes you precise. You choose where to invest energy. You choose when to reveal strength. You choose when silence serves you better than noise. And slowly, something changes. People begin to take you seriously without knowing why. Your presence carries weight without effort. Your calm unsettles those who rely on chaos. You stop chasing influence, and influence begins to follow you. This is the awakening Machiavelli understood. The realization that the greatest advantage is not force, wealth, or status, but perception. Control perception, and you shape reality. The moment you stop needing to be seen is the moment you begin to see clearly. The moment you stop explaining is the moment others start listening. Power does not announce itself. It waits. And those who learn this early walk a path most people never notice until it is too late. This is not arrogance. This is awareness. And awareness is where control begins. The awakening is the realization that visibility is not power, control is. Most people give away their advantage by speaking too much, reacting too fast, and revealing too much of themselves. Machiavelli's hidden lesson is that perception shapes reality, and silence creates leverage. When you learn to observe instead of react, and restrain instead of perform, power begins to move in your favor. Once you awaken to the hidden advantage, life changes its tone. What once felt normal now feels exposed. What once felt safe now feels like a trap. This is where the descent begins. Because the moment you stop reacting like everyone else, you start to see the cost of comfort. Comfort is not peace. Comfort is familiarity, and familiarity is what makes people predictable. Most people live open lives. They share their thoughts freely. They show their emotions without filter. They explain their motives, their pain, their plans. They believe this makes them honest. They believe this builds trust. But Machiavelli saw the danger hidden inside this behavior. When people know you fully, they begin to manage you. They know what makes you angry. They know what makes you afraid. They know what makes you feel small. And once they know these things, even without meaning harm, they hold power over you. Comfort invites exposure, and exposure invites control. This is why distance feels cold to those who do not understand it. When you pull back, people feel uneasy. They call it arrogance. They call it ego. But what they are really feeling is the loss of access. They are uncomfortable because they can no longer read you. And unreadable people are dangerous. History does not favor those who are easy to understand. It favors those who remain unclear until the right moment. The leaders who fell were often the ones who tried too hard to be loved. They spoke too openly. They trusted too widely. They wanted comfort more than control. Machiavelli warned that mercy without strength leads to ruin. In modern life, this means emotional mercy. Giving everyone access. Letting everyone into your inner world. Explaining yourself even when no explanation is required. Every unnecessary word weakens your position. Think about how people argue. The first one to lose control usually loses the ground. The one who raises their voice reveals insecurity. The one who rushes to defend themselves shows fear of judgment. Silence, on the other hand, forces the other person to fill the space. And in that space, they reveal more than they intended. This is the power of distance. Distance is not cruelty. It is discipline. You do not need to cut people off. You do not need to harden your heart. You only need to decide who deserves access to your thoughts, your emotions, your plans. Most people do not. This truth is heavy because it costs you comfort. When you stop oversharing, some people will drift away. When you stop explaining yourself, some will misunderstand you. When you stop reacting, some will try harder to provoke you. This is the price of control. And this is where many turn back. They miss the warmth of being understood. They miss the feeling of belonging. They miss being liked. But Machiavelli would remind you, being liked has never been the same as being safe. The world does not protect the open-hearted. It tests them. Distance protects your energy. It protects your clarity. It gives you time to think instead of react. It gives you room to choose instead of submit. Notice how people respect what they cannot easily reach. Notice how attention follows restraint. When you stop chasing approval, approval becomes curious. When you stop explaining, people start listening more closely. This is not manipulation. This is human nature. People value what feels scarce, and access to you should be scarce. The descent teaches you something uncomfortable. Loneliness often walks beside strength. Not because you are better than others, but because you move differently. You no longer speak from emotion. You no longer react from ego. You no longer seek comfort in being understood. You seek clarity. Machiavelli understood that rulers who revealed too much invited betrayal. In modern life, betrayal is quieter. It comes as gossip, as leverage, as subtle control. People may not seek to harm you, but they will use what you give them. Distance takes that option away. When you keep parts of yourself private, you regain balance. You decide when to be warm and when to be firm, when to listen and when to speak, when to reveal and when to remain silent. This control changes how the world treats you. People think twice before crossing you, not because you threaten them, but because they cannot predict you. Your calm unsettles those who rely on emotional chaos. Your restraint exposes their impulsiveness. And slowly, power shifts. The descent is not easy. It strips away illusions. It removes the comfort of openness. It forces you to accept that not everyone deserves your trust, your truth, or your vulnerability. But it also gives you something rare. Freedom. Freedom from needing approval. Freedom from emotional traps. Freedom from being managed by other people's expectations. This is the dark truth Machiavelli understood. To maintain power, you must accept distance, not isolation, but control. Control over what is seen. Control over what is felt. Control over when you step forward. Those who fail here return to noise. Those who endure move closer to mastery. Comfort feels good, but it leaves you exposed. Distance feels cold, but it keeps you clear. You do not lose your humanity by choosing restraint. You protect it. Power does not grow in constant openness. It grows where discipline lives. The descent is the realization that comfort weakens more than it protects. When you give everyone access to your thoughts and emotions, you give away control. Machiavelli's hidden lesson is that distance is not cruelty. It is discipline. By choosing restraint over comfort, you regain clarity, strength, and authority over your own life. By now, you have felt the shift. Silence no longer feels empty. Distance no longer feels cold. What once felt like loss now feels like control. This is where mastery begins. Most people believe authority comes from dominance, from speaking first, from proving strength. But real authority moves differently. It does not rush into the room. It does not argue for space. It settles in quietly, and the room adjusts around it. You see this in people who carry weight without raising their voice. When they speak, others pause. When they act, others follow, not because they demand attention, but because attention naturally moves toward them. This is the result of silence used correctly. Silence is not avoidance. It is intention. When you stop filling every moment with words, people begin to study you. They listen more closely. They measure your reactions. And when those reactions remain calm, measured, and rare, your presence gains power. Machiavelli understood this well. He believed that the ruler who speaks too much weakens his own command, not because words are dangerous, but because careless words are. Authority is built when speech becomes deliberate, not emotional. Mastery means you no longer react to every challenge. You choose your battles. You choose your timing. You choose your words like tools, not weapons. And when you do speak, your words land because they are unexpected. Think of a leader facing chaos. Others shout. Others panic. Others rush to explain. The master remains still. He listens. He lets the noise exhaust itself. And when he finally speaks, the direction becomes clear. Not because he is louder, but because he waited. This patience creates gravity. People trust calm in moments of uncertainty. They follow steadiness when the world feels unstable. Your silence, when backed by control, becomes reassurance. It signals strength without display. But mastery is not just external, it is internal first. You no longer feel the need to defend your ego. Insults pass without reaction. Provocation loses its grip. You understand that emotional control is power. The person who controls your emotions controls you. And mastery means that no one holds that position. Machiavelli hinted that fortune favors those who are prepared, but preparation is invisible. No one sees the discipline behind restraint. No one notices the effort behind calm. They only see the outcome and assume it was effortless. This is where your authority grows. You begin to act without announcement. You move without seeking approval. You let results speak instead of promises. And slowly, people adjust how they treat you. They think before crossing you. They listen before speaking over you. They sense something different, even if they cannot name it. This is perception at work. You are no longer trying to control others. You are controlling yourself. And self-command is the highest form of power. Silence gives you space to think ahead. Distance gives you room to plan. Emotional restraint gives you clarity. Together, they create a presence that does not need to prove itself. This is why true authority often feels invisible. It does not demand obedience. It inspires it. People follow because they trust your steadiness. They respect your limits. They sense your control. Machiavelli would say that power is safest when it is not constantly tested. Silence prevents unnecessary tests. It keeps others guessing. It keeps you ahead. But mastery does not mean hiding forever. It means choosing your moments. There will be times when you step forward, when you speak clearly, when you act decisively. And because you have remained measured for so long, these moments carry force. Your words shift direction. Your actions change outcomes. This is the final lesson. The hidden advantage is not secrecy for its own sake. It is timing. It is perception. It is emotional command. You reveal yourself when it serves your purpose, not when emotion demands it. Most people speak to release pressure. The master speaks to apply it. And once you live this way, the world responds differently. You are no longer just another voice in the noise. You become a point of focus, a calm center, a presence that cannot be ignored. This is not manipulation. This is mastery. You have moved from reacting to directing, from explaining to deciding, from being seen to being respected. And that changes everything. Silence, when chosen, becomes authority. Restraint, when mastered, becomes freedom. You do not lose power by speaking less. You gather it. And once you understand this, you stop chasing influence, because influence begins to move toward you. The hidden advantage is not secrecy for its own sake. It is mastery over perception, emotion, and timing. By using silence with intention and restraint with discipline, authority begins to form naturally. Once you possess this control, the world no longer treats you as ordinary, and it never looks at you the same again.